Hey, thanks for joining us on the Eat Crunchy podcast. We are three sisters on a journey towards healthy lives using Weight Watchers to get there. We'd love to hear about your journey as well on our Facebook page or at eatcrunchy.com.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us. This is Heidi, and today we're going to be talking about plateaus. Before we dive into that topic though, we wanted to give a shout out to someone who had sent us a little message on Facebook. Rebecca?
Yeah, hey guys. So Mary, we wanted to thank you for your comment. First of all, she was telling us about how she's been doing with Simply Filling and that it's been helpful for her. I know Lisa's, that's something she's been working on, but she told us she really enjoyed our podcast, and you said, I wish they were more than once a week, and that our podcasts always feel like an extension of my Weight Watchers meetings, but more entertaining. We just wanted to say thank you very much for Mary for mentioning that, and we have a lot of fun with our podcasts, and we're glad
That's
that
kind
you
of
find
why
them.
we did it, was because we felt like the meeting just wasn't enough.
Yeah, and I'm super glad to hear that Simply Filling is something that's helpful for you, and I think, Lisa, you're still having success with it, yeah?
So far, 5 pounds.
Yay!
Awesome. So today we wanted to talk a little bit about plateaus. I don't know if you've been following our Facebook page, you know that Rebecca's been on a plateau busting mission.
That's right.
So we thought we'd maybe start with talking about what does it mean to you when you think you've hit a plateau? Like when do you define plateau? And then what are some techniques that we're doing to do it, and techniques you might want to try. For me, I feel like I hit a plateau. It's not enough to just like 2 or 3 weeks where I'm kind of the same weight, because I feel like there's enough variability that I could probably change something, and I just haven't done it yet. For me, it's more like probably like 4 or 5 weeks of, it's that length. It's once you hit that month of the same weight, and you've already tried something different and the scale is still not moving. To me, that's when I feel like I'm in a plateau and I get really discouraged.
I feel like this, Lisa. I feel like I think that's a plateau until this other thing happens where, and this is how I wrote a blog post about it. This is how I felt recently. You go down, you're like, oh, I lost a few pounds, and then you realize that like you're struggling and you're being tempted with, cravings that maybe are sort of coming out of nowhere, and then you gain it, and then you lose it the next week, and then you gain it, and then you lose it, and then you don't really realize how long you've been within that 5 or 10 pounds until you go back and look at the app, and you kind of say, wait a second, that line has just been going up and down in the same few pounds over and over again, and I keep celebrating the losses and I'm like mourning the gains, but I'm not actually losing in the long haul, and I think that's at least where I feel like I've been recently.
So is that a true plateau, or is that just like what maybe happens after a plateau when you're starting to lose again? You're celebrating it to the point that you feel like you don't have to be so strict and you're going back up?
I am defining it as a plateau. I feel like I've been living in a plateau for like 5 months, where I've been within 10 pounds or so, and I can lose a couple pounds, but there's a floor that I can't get underneath.
Right.
And there's a ceiling I'm not going above. There's this kind of this range that there's a decade for me. There's a decade of weight that I'm stuck in, and I can't break out of that decade. And even with really good weeks and trying really hard, I might go down a smidge, but I can't bust out of that decade. And that's when I realized, like, I think I'm legitimately stuck.
Well, and there's this thing, I don't know a lot about it, not being a nutritionist or a scientist, but, there's this concept of having a set point. Mm-hmm. That our bodies or our minds or something are just sort of like comfortable with a particular set point. And for me, I realized, I sort of had this realization there were 2 things. One was I realized that I think I'm self-sabotaging without, like, subconsciously. I don't think I'm meaning to, but every time I sort of would lose the number, if I go down even just a few pounds, it felt like an out-of-body experience. Like, that's not my weight. Like, I'm not supposed to be that low. And my mind was just sort of, like, not comfortable. I felt like my sort of natural place was a few pounds above that. And I thought, that's weird that I would think that when every other time if I've lost, I'm excited and I just want to go forward. And here it just didn't feel normal. And then the second thing is, when I thought back, I thought, you know what, I actually spent several years at this weight. Mm-hmm. Before I gained more recently, more recent years. But I spent a lot of years at the weight that I'm at now. And so that sort of solidified my thought that maybe this is a set point for my body.
It's interesting that you say that, because several weeks ago, Rebecca and I had attended a meeting, and there was a woman there who it was when I had hit my 50 pounds, and she had asked, "Do you feel like you self-sabotage?" And when she asked me that, I kind of thought, my immediate thought was like, no, I couldn't think of it. But then as I started thinking a little bit more about it, I started thinking of the things that I, like, emotionally maybe self-sabotage. And I don't know, I feel like your comment there, I'm not really quite sure how to verbalize it, because I feel like your comment there really resonates with me a little bit, Lisa.
Well, and I think about set points as well. A couple of years ago, I did Atkins for a couple months to try and, I had a goal of losing, 40 pounds or whatever, and I think we might have had a family competition or something.
We did have a family competition.
And I lost 40 pounds, and I was really excited about that. And then I gained back about 10, 15 pounds, and I lived there for several years, which I realized a few weeks ago is the decade I'm living in now. So since then I had gone up, but I think that my body is comfortable where I am right now. And I might have mentioned this on a past podcast. There was somebody that on Connect who had said, one person had lost a lot of weight and she was having a hard time losing it. And the lady said, well, maybe that's the weight your body is supposed to be at. I know my body is not supposed to be at this weight. I just know that it seems to like it there. It seems to be comfortable there. And I need to give my body permission to go down further. That it's okay for us to keep losing weight, my body and I.
Right. So you'll still be friends if you can lose weight.
We'll still be friends. We'll still get along. But I do think that there is an adjustment that your body has to make, because your body is designed to survive through feasts and famines. And, if things suddenly change, your body has to adjust to that and get on board. And
I think, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so what I'm hearing is that there's two things. There's the physiological, your body is used to a certain weight, which there's only so much we know about that and know how to control. But then there's also the emotional aspect. Mm-hmm. That, like Lisa, you were saying that
self-sabotage part.
That's what you were used to being. That's what when you looked at the scale, that's who you were.
So I love how great minds think alike, because the comment that I was about to say, which is very similar, is I think, because in a minute when we start talking about, what to do about it, realizing that if the problem is so multifaceted, there's a light bulb that just went on for me as well. The light is, if the problem is multifaceted, this plateau, it's not just that our body is just comfortable. There's probably a lot of things going into it. Then we need to think in a multifaceted sort of 360 dimensional, way to sort of, to get through it, right? There's more going on than just,
that's a really
can't
good
break
point.
through it.
Mm-hmm. And it's just being discouraged about it and, well, I'm going to continue on doing the same thing may not be the right approach.
Yeah.
I will say, with that being said, I am a proponent of continuing to do good things. So one of the things that I was thinking about as I've been working through my plateau busting stuff, which I'll talk about in a minute, has been, I started to feel like I've just wasted my time. The last 5 months, I've just wasted my time, and that I've not been able to break this through. And
all that weight that you've lost earlier means nothing.
Well, not all the weight that I lost earlier, but why couldn't I figure this out sooner? Or why couldn't I get this in gear sooner? And I thought, the difference between me now on Weight Watchers and me before Weight Watchers is I would hit a plateau, I would get discouraged, and then within a month or two, I'd start gaining again. So what Weight Watchers has allowed me to do is it has put a ceiling. It helps me to catch sooner when I'm starting to get out of control or starting to gain weight, so that I can kind of stay. Because my body, in my body's defense, my body was used to going up and then down and then up and then down and then staying places for long periods of time and then creeping up and then going down a little bit. I'm not having big ups and big downs. I'm having a lot of the same and then a little bit down and a little bit up. I'm changing how my body functions, and that is a big deal,
And while you work through the emotions of dealing with things and learning how to live a little bit differently, you're not doing any damage. You're starting in a much better place when you kind of reconfigure things and you're ready to start losing again.
That's a good point. When you think of a plateau in terms of mountain climbing, part of a plateau is it allows you to kind of build up some strength again from the mountain part that you
take
climbed
a break,
before,
rest, take a breather,
and then continue to ascend the mountain.
So maybe there's some hope in that not all plateaus are awful.
Let's see how long it goes for.
Well, no, you don't want to. Ideally you would keep losing, but if you need to take a break, don't go up. Mm-hmm. Be content with the plateau for a moment while you've kind of figure out your next move.
Well, and I did gain, I gained a little bit of weight during, I had Christmas season, end of semester school stuff and kind of lots of stress where I tend to gain a lot of weight, I gained a little bit, but I was within my plateau range. Yeah. And then I have been losing that again. And so, again, I feel like there's something to be said for continuing to stick with something even though you're not getting what you need right then. It doesn't mean
because it's easy to feel like you should just give up. Yeah. I feel like that's where I get when I hit a plateau for, a few weeks, I feel like I just want to give up, and what's the point? Where's my box of Little Debbie's?
Well, it's so funny too, because we all think that, and yet it's so illogical, because that would just undo all of the success,
But instead of sitting there feeling like I'm such a failure, I haven't lost any weight, maybe we should just retrain our thoughts and be like, I'm taking a little breather, I'm not going to change what I'm doing. I'm not going to go get the box of Little Debbie's. I'm going to stay within my points, but it's okay if my weight stays the same for this week. I'll do something different next week. But actually that brings us to a next topic. So, well, not the next topic, but the next part of this topic, which is, what do we do about plateaus? And I think there's probably a million different suggestions out there, many of which I have not tried, many of which I have tried. I think today I'd love to hear from you guys, like, what are things you've tried or things you want to try? Just spitballing, brainstorming here.
Well, I'll go because I'm in the midst, as was referenced earlier, I'm in the midst of my plateau busting time frame. So I've been living in...
That's a title. That's the title of this period of time. Plateau busting time frame.
So I'd been in this plateau and I decided I needed to give myself, I needed to do something different, and I needed to give myself a time limit. So 3 weeks is my time frame. I've just finished week 2 of 3. And my 3 pillars of my plateau busting,
PBT.
I put on Facebook, on Instagram, on Connect. So my first one is that I track every single bite. My second one is that I move more, and my third one is that I'm kind to my body, and speak kindly to myself. And so what I've been doing the last 2 weeks is that when I can find a way to do extra steps, I do. I take the ramps at work because I can't take the stairs, but I take the ramps at work. I take the long ways around places. Today, it was freezing cold outside, and I parked at the end of Whole Foods parking lot and walked in to get extra steps and then walked back out.
Wow, nice job, because it was really cold today.
Cold. And I was wearing shorts because we'd weigh into it. I
of course.
Clothes. Sure. So, shorts and my short t-shirt. So I, 2 things happened. One is that I'm down today, which I was really excited about. But secondly, what I noticed is that I'm actually down for my 4th week in a row, which began before my plateau busting. Now, it's still within my plateau range of where I've been, but there was something about realizing that I've established a trend that is feeling really motivating to me, that I don't want to break the trend. So part of my moving more has been actually having legitimate workouts versus just also at trying to build in stuff. And so I've been doing more working out, which I think has been helpful. But there's something about giving myself a time limit. There's something about giving myself a time limit that is allowing me to be more motivated with regards to food and with regard to movement. So I'm hoping that by the end of next week, I'll have broken through the decade that I'm in, and I will be established in a new decade. That's my goal.
Can I ask you a question, though? So those 3 things that you mentioned, those are definitely all good things, but I think you were sort of doing a lot of them. I mean, what is the difference, I guess, between... Did you find that maybe you weren't moving as much as you are now, or...
She wasn't moving as much. I mean, when we're talking in the morning, she's constantly walking around and doing stuff.
So you're moving
more
than
I changed my goal. So my Fitbit goal used to be 7,500 steps a day. I naturally get about 5,000 steps a day, so it gave me work. I've officially changed the goal to 10,000 steps a day. Okay. And I hit that, probably 4 times a week. So I've legitimately kind of quantitatively moved more. And I think a really big part really has been speaking kindly to myself. There's something about being conscientious of what I'm saying to myself, how I'm referring to myself, that I think has been helping me and has been helping me to crave food less. So like this week, the beginning of this week was a really hard work week. And at one point I was on the verge of tears, and I just was so stressed and overwhelmed and had felt like I'd been beaten down. And I wanted to go eat a donut and a cookie and anything else that was sweet and bready that I could possibly lay my hands on. And I thought, Rebecca, you need to go for a walk. And I went for a walk for a little bit. And then I thought, okay, you need to take a deep breath and calm down. And I was doing the things that I know how to do. And I started to say, like, Rebecca, it's so stupid that you get upset about stuff like this. And I kind of having that internal dialogue. And I thought about this goal that I have.
It's interesting, not even weight related. A frustrating work event that you're talking negatively to yourself.
Yeah, completely unrelated. And so I was like, Rebecca, your job right now is to speak kindly to yourself. It is okay to be frustrated about this. It's okay to be overwhelmed. It's okay to be anxious. Your job is to deal with that anxiety in a healthy way and take deep breaths and get through it. You're going to be okay, you know?
So I guess the reason I asked that is just because, I mean, I guess I'm wondering what's going to happen at the end of the 3 weeks, right? You're not going to be kind to yourself. And I'm not trying to be flippant. I'm trying to understand, like, what is your vision of, like, when the 3 weeks is over? Are you going to loosen up a little bit on the what you're eating, or is something going to change? Or are you going to recommit, or what?
I have no idea.
Okay.
And I don't know. When I started this, I was like 3 weeks to bust my plateau, or I didn't really have an or. I didn't really have a what happens after that. I just felt like I needed to. I know my body enough to know that 1 week isn't enough. 1 week is enough for me to do behavioral change, but not enough for it to show up on the scale.
Right.
2 weeks is enough to get a little bit of movement on a scale, but not to get me out of the decade. I needed a full 3 weeks to see if I could actually bust through, and where I'm putting diligent effort and energy into it. And I don't know how it'll go, but I have put a lot more mental energy into my weight loss this week and being very conscientious about how to get in more movement and how to eat healthier. I'm always, I'm pretty consistently within points, but like still making healthier food choices, having more 0-point foods.
What I like about your plan is that you gave yourself a time limit, and it was a reasonable time limit. I just like when I first joined Weight Watchers, I joined it for the 3 months, and I was like, I don't have to do this forever. I'm going to do it for 3 months. And I didn't plan on quitting necessarily, but I gave myself that time limit that I could look forward to. I'm going to do this for 3 months. And so I like that because I feel like that's something that I could feasibly do. I'm going to give myself 3 weeks.
So I'm sort of in the same boat as Rebecca. Like I have, like I said, like I felt like there's been several weeks of within the same sort of range, and so it's interesting to see how we all sort of deal with things a little bit differently. So the first thing was I did switch over to Simply Filling because part of the evaluation when I was thinking about what's sort of stopping me from losing weight is I realized I was not adhering to the new freestyle plan. And it doesn't do any good to have a plan if you never follow the plan. And so I realized, and I have blamed a lot of it on like, oh, freestyle's changed, is different than the point system. But to be fair, I don't know that I was sticking to Smart Points either the last few months of Smart Points. So like I feel like I think I was allowing myself too many freedoms. And part of that, just as a sidebar, comes, I think, because when you first start a diet plan, like we all started Weight Watchers within a month and a half or so of each other. And that first several months was great because you're losing. And then, so this plateau is also sort of coming at a time that I would expect a plateau to come after you've lost a chunk of weight. And you cannot do all the same things that you could do. And what was sort of, it didn't feel easy at the time, but it was easier. And now, I could totally have a terrible weekend and make it all up by the next Friday for my weigh-in. And I stopped being able to do that so easily.
Yeah.
So,
right. Yes.
I remember.
It wasn't working.
I remember
would start
telling
on
you guys,
Tuesday.
like, I had pizza and cookies this week, and I still lost weight. If I eat pizza and cookies now, I'm not losing weight.
Yeah. It's so I think our bodies have sort of caught up, and that was part of the brilliance of the point system, that it reduces as you lose weight because your bodies can't do the same thing. But anyway, so I think obviously every plateau you want to evaluate what, that's my mind kicks into gear of analysis, right? What exactly is going well, what's not going well. And so I switched over to Simply Filling and have been trying, a good faith effort to stay on it. And that has helped me go down, although it's funny because I went down the first 2 weigh-ins and then this week I didn't lose anything. And all of a sudden my whole mindset is back. I'm like, man, why can't I ever lose anything? Dang. And I'm like, Lisa, you've lost 5 pounds in the past 2.5 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't lose this week. And, so like it's fun. We're also just emotionally funny people. But anyway, so I just think we're funny people because we have these desires and we get frustrated, But anyway, but the other thing I was thinking about and that I've been trying not to do is analyze and change too much, right? I know that if I stick to the things that I believe in, the whole foods and whole grains and lean meats and the stuff that I'm supposed to have, and if I don't have too much salt and I don't have too much sugar, and just the stuff that I've learned over this past year and the relationship with food that I've developed that's much more healthy, I know that eventually I will lose weight, and I can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If there's something to tweak, I need to tweak it. And I've really been thinking a lot about like how to tweak it to be better. And I've started to pay more attention to nutrition. And I'm really trying to think, you know, how can I get in the vitamins that are going to give me the energy? I want to take it to that next level because I think that'll help. But you don't destroy, kind of like we were saying earlier, you don't destroy the good habits that you've developed or change the whole program and go, well, maybe I should get on Atkins. You know, like maybe I should switch everything up.
I was thinking this week, maybe I need to go raw for a week.
I know.
Maybe I need to only eat raw food for a week, and that'll get me through my plateau. And legitimately, it probably would help me to get through my plateau, but I'm trying to establish a long-term lifestyle here, and I know that just doesn't work for me, you know.
Yep.
You talking about raw reminds me of when my roommate and I in college went raw, and we went and spent like $60 each on groceries,
which is a lot.
Which was a lot. I mean, I think our weekly budget was like $30 each.
Yeah.
So we spent tons of money on fruits and vegetables. We went to classes. We came home, but breakfast and lunch we were fabulous. Yeah. By dinner, we ordered a pizza from Papa John's.
Every time, though, I've tried a restrictive diet, that's what's happened to me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we all know people that are capable of sort of sticking to those things.
It's hard.
But I think if you have a real sort of, at least for me, I feel like I have an unhealthy relationship with food. So I don't want to create a scenario that's going to cause me to go running for the pizza more than I already want to, you know?
Well, but I think that those types of thoughts, though, as I've watched people I connect and kind of listened to meetings of people that are rejoining Weight Watchers, I think that the time that we've been dealing with the plateau is when a lot of people quit, right? It's not working for me any longer. I need to go and do something else.
Including me in the past.
And then they come back because they couldn't find that other thing, but they're now 20 pounds heavier, you know?
Yeah. The grass is greener.
Well, yeah. And so
hang out in the plateau a little bit until you figure out something else different to do.
Yeah. If you're staying the same, for the love, at least you're not gaining.
That's better than getting off the plan. And so what I've decided I need to do differently is I think I have a true addiction to sugar. And so the last plan was a little more generous in what I could eat in sugar. I could have half my points in cookies and still have plenty of points left for real food. But this plan, I don't have as many points, so I don't have that luxury. And so I'm finding that, you know, when I eat that many points in cookies, you know, you can't really eat real food. You can't put anything in. And so I've been really watching how much sugar I take in. And I also have found, I don't know that beans are my groove in terms of weight loss. Mm-hmm. I believe beans are healthy, but I don't know that I can consume as many beans as I was. Like having all these bean chilies every day.
That's
so I've
interesting.
been trying to watch my bean intake.
Really?
Well, they have a lot of carbs. And one thing I know about myself throughout the years is that I actually do better on a low-carb diet. Not Atkins, but just a lower carb.
Well, to be fair to Atkins, my version of Atkins is like sausage
bacon
covered
with
by
cheese.
cheese with cream
That's
cheese in the middle. You know, you can have broccoli and lots of things like that on Atkins.
The times that I've been best on losing weight is when I was lower carb. Not totally low carb, not Atkins version, but like very, you know, lower carb and having carbs just in fruits and vegetables as opposed to other items. So
that's interesting.
My body's actually the same. I do better. Like I've noticed beans. I can have like a sprinkling of beans on a salad, but if I have like a big stew or something, I'm not going to lose as much weight. And whole grains. I know, Lisa, you'd said before, whole grains really help you to lose weight. And for me, they always puff out my stomach, and I gain weight.
Yeah,
it's just so interesting because I feel like it's and I get energy from carbs too. I hate it whenever I don't have enough carbs. I feel cranky and I don't lose weight. I almost feel like I need the fiber to
feel that
keep
with
everything
carbs.
going.
I do best in fruits, vegetables, and lean meats.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we have the same genes. You know, we're the same family, and yet our bodies function differently. Yeah. You know.
So I did, my quote unquote research, 5 minutes of Googling how to get through a plateau. And I actually found that a lot of people have written articles about this and very few people had any good ideas.
As it turns out, no one knows.
Nobody knows. People are like, reevaluate, exercise more. And I'm like, oh, deep. Didn't think about that. So I do think one thing, so Rebecca, you're trying to do it. I'm trying to do it with just I'm doing it more like as weight goals, and you've got a time frame thing. But I think one thing that I saw that I just resonates is just to set smaller goals. I think sometimes it's very difficult to overcome this mindset of whenever I have a weight loss, I think, oh, I lost 2 pounds this week. And then I look at the calendar. I do it every time. And I go, that means in 3 months I'm going to weigh this much. Because I'm going to lose 2 pounds every single week. And this is what it's going to end up being. And then I start thinking about what size clothes I'm going to start buying. And like, I just go off in this mindset of just, it's not realistic. And really, I think having that too much, planning for too much weight loss than you're actually going to have, obviously can sabotage you, because then you're disappointed.
Right. Every week
you're disappointed. But then the other part of it is your mind is not where it should be. You shouldn't be thinking about 2 months from now. You should be thinking about now. And so the concept of setting small, just this week, my plan, for me, it's like, just if I lose half a pound, I'm just going to be happy. Yeah. And like normally I would be disappointed, but I'm just going to be grateful. And then I'm going to set that same goal next week. And the concept is I need to be moving down, and then eventually the plateau becomes weight loss again.
Yeah.
So that was one of the ideas that I saw. People are always like, exercise more and stuff like that. And I think that that's obviously something that you can do to get through plateau. And a lot of the articles I saw said that. I think for me, like, some of the better ideas are like, if you're already exercising this way, maybe exercise this way. Yeah. Somebody said, what finally broke her through was she decided to do a marathon, and like, instead of focusing on I've got to exercise, I'm going to start.
That's what I need to do.
Yeah, Rebecca, all you need to do is run a marathon. I think what she was trying to say though was she changed it from exercising for weight loss to setting some goal. Yeah. Maybe for us it's a 5K. Maybe it's just the turkey trot next Thanksgiving that's a mile. I don't know. Anyway, so I thought that was a decent idea. They all said reassess, and I'm like, duh, okay. And then this is an interesting one. I've done this in the past, and I actually think that it can be semi-successful, is some people do these little cleanses. Like they'll spend just like one day, like we talked about just eating fruits and vegetables, like raw fruits and vegetables for a day, but not as a long-term thing, but is there something that makes you feel ultra healthful that you can incorporate a lot of in a short amount of time just to kind of clean your body out if you think that's the problem?
Well, and if nothing else, it resets your mindset to like, I'm being healthy. These are healthy choices that I'm making, and it makes you want to make more healthy choices.
And you've got to be careful though, because you don't want to say I'm going to live like this, because that's when you get all the eating disorders and cravings and running for pizza. But is there like, I don't want to go too restrictive, but some people do like a day of juice cleansing or a day of fruit, and I'm still kind of back and forth like on how I think about these things, because I'm always afraid of getting in the mindset of deprivation, which I think can sabotage people. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if just one day of trying something like that would be worthwhile. I don't know.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I've heard some people just go all out for a weekend and they eat whatever they want and it tricks their body. So I lean towards the eating whatever I want, as opposed to the cleanse. I have not either, but I keep trying it, hoping. Just kidding.
Every time I eat at a buffet, I gain. It just happens.
But one thing that research has shown is that it doesn't matter if it's Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig or Atkins, that any diet can be successful. You just have to stick with it. Now we've chosen Weight Watchers, as for me at least, it makes it easier to stick with. But there is a piece here of, even when it's hard, you don't get to give up. This is your life you're fighting for. This is your health that you're fighting for. Even when it's hard, you stick with it. And you see, and if your plateau is 5 months long like mine was, then you get through it and you find a time to make it work differently when you have the mental energy or strength or whatever, but you don't go off.
You don't go off, but you tweak the improvements. And I know that's obvious, but I only say that because I know folks that have thought like, oh, I tried this plan and it didn't work, and then I tried that plan and it didn't work. And to your point, Rebecca, they probably could have kept going, but on the other hand, these off-the-shelf solutions, it's okay to say I'm Weight Watchers, but I also believe in, this type of nutrition is good. Like we just talked about with the meat versus the carbs, right? So you tailor it to yourself, but then to your point, keep going, stick to it.
Because I think that it's so easy for discouragement to set in when you're plateauing. And one of the things that I've been reminding myself of is that even if my weight's not changing, I'm doing things that are really healthy for my body. Mm-hmm. I'm eating healthy foods. I'm moving more. And that's kind of what I was thinking last week as I was getting through week 1 of my plateau busting time frame was that
I need to work with you on naming conventions.
was that even if I don't actually bust through, I'm doing things that are healthy for my body. These are habits I need to be developing. It's going to be okay.
And I don't know that I know of anybody who's comfortable in the plateau. Nobody hits the plateau and says, well, I guess this is as far as I'm going to go.
I'm so glad I made it here. The lack of view is amazing.
So it's okay to encourage yourself and realize this is, I need to take a breather and tweak, like Lisa said, and then get to your PBT time.
That's right.
Well, and I've been thinking about, exercise. I know that exercise would make me better off. I just hate it with all of my mind, body, and strength. I hate it. But I was thinking about how, sometimes plateaus are opportunities to make yourself sort of break through something that you're struggling with. So,
get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, your body is kind of saying, look, this isn't working. We're really comfortable with what you're doing, but you're trying to lose weight. You're trying to change something fundamental with your body, and maybe, doing something like Rebecca, like you said, raising up your steps, even if it's only for a few weeks, just to kind of get through. Mm-hmm. And then, my goal, I hope, on the other side of the plateau, even though I'm going to have other shorter plateaus, I hope that it doesn't have that same, this mindset and this concept of, like we were talking about earlier, self-sabotage. I hope that doesn't happen again, at least for a while. Yeah. Let me sit at a plateau at a much lower weight. Yeah. So,
well, thank you guys for joining us. We hope to hear any comments about what have you done that's been successful in busting your plateaus, or are you currently in one, and do you have any ideas for things you're going to try? We'd love to hear all of that. So please hit us up on our Facebook page at Eat Crunchy or our blog, eatcrunchy.com.